Hello students, welcome to tonight's beginner fiddle class. We're going to be working on the song Bobby Casey's tonight, and hopefully give you guys a good piece to work on this week. So Bobby Casey's is actually a slow reel that can definitely have a lot of improv put into it. So I'm going to play it once, and hopefully you guys get an idea what it should sound like, and then we'll work on specifics of how to get it to sound your best. Okay, kind of a sad tune, so a piece to play if you're having a bad day. All right, so let's put in some potential improv, some potential slidings, and all that good stuff. So one thing I want to make sure you guys are doing is try to be using the bottom half of your bow as much as possible. I find a lot of students, and ones that are here in the live class can see, tend to kind of hang out in the middle of the bow, and they don't ever get into the bottom half. So one thing I want you to do as you guys are working on this piece this week is just trying to get more in the bottom half and making sure that your wrist is bending. So a lot of times the reason why it's hard to play in the bottom half of the bow is because your wrist is too stiff and potentially your thumb is stiff as well. So just make sure that you're not holding the bow too tight, your wrist is flexible, and just try to play all the eighth notes in the bottom half of the bow. So I was not right at the bottom, but somewhere I would say about a quarter of the way up. So just try to use more of the bottom half of the bow. Okay, so yeah, a lot of slurs. As you can see, there's not any written in here, so there's definitely a lot of potential for slurring. I would start at fourth finger and up bow. I would slide into the A minor chord, slur that, slide that. Anytime you see 4/8 notes, you could slur the first two. That's good common practice for playing fiddle. Fourth finger, avoid that open E string, slur, slur. And then for some of you guys that have played a while, you guys can hopefully do what's called a Fiddle Drone. So I'm going to kind of show you guys how to do that. So basically that consists of playing a fourth finger on the A string, or any string, and then while you're doing that, also play the open string. So here's the fourth finger on the A string, like that. And as I'm doing that, I also slide into it and play an open E at the same time, like that. Obviously, if you're doing this, you have to make sure that the 4 does not hit the E string. Otherwise, you'll get a very nasty cat noise. I don't want to do it. But yeah, maybe you guys could just practice trying to get this sound. So that measure would sound potentially like. Like that. Okay, so that's kind of my way of pointing out a drone with a 4/0 like that. Slur, slur. You can also do a drone on this 4 on this D string note. All right, that's the first half. I'm going to go on to the second half here in a moment, but let me kind of pick a spot where we can maybe experiment a little bit with improv. So let's take, let's see, let's take this measure here, and let's experiment a little bit with that measure. So I'm going to play the first line. So right now we have like that. Okay, and if you guys have followed some of my classes, I've explained how the important thing is understanding the starting note, which can be variable, but we're just going to keep it as is A3, and then the target note, which is A, and everything in between is up to the fiddle player's imagination. So you have two notes, and basically you have a bridge that happens between them. We're going to call it the bridge. How do you make your way from one note to the next note? And there's a lot of different ways to do that. If you haven't done it before, it might be really challenging to even attempt. But the more that you try it, the more you'll get comfortable with it. So let me just give you some examples of how I can change that measure, but still achieve the first note being a D and the note that I'm aiming for, the A. So eventually I want to hit A, right? So, or that was my favorite one. So I just made that up, all those different examples. So what I encourage you guys to try is, even if it's simpler, maybe just put one note in between or two notes. So this would be maybe a simpler approach. So maybe a simpler approach would be like, or even simpler. Now, even though I only put a couple notes in there, it would still sound cool. So this is the way it's written. If I simplify it, so yeah, you can still hear how it very varies it just by simplifying. So yeah, but yeah, I would just try to experiment a little bit with that and see what you guys can come up with. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Cool. All right, so that's Improv 101. All right, let's go on to the next half, second half of this. So let's say there, I would try to do a slide, kind of vary those 16th notes a little bit. So instead of just going, I would go, so yeah, I would try to just kind of vary that up a little bit, otherwise it's a little bit dull. So right there, really anywhere. Maybe put in a drone. Just kind of vary it up a little bit. 4. Maybe drone that a little bit. 4 there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let me do the second half again with some of these slides. Let's say drone the end note. Okay, and then let's do another improv measure. Let's do the ending measure. Okay, so right now it's so let's keep the notes the same, the first note, the B, and the A. But let's see what we can do in between to change it up. So or a lot of things you can do. So try to experiment a little bit with that. Some people feel really uncomfortable with that, I know. I actually was one of those people. When I was 20 years old, I was asked to do improv for the first time after playing violin for 15 years or so. And it wasn't easy even after playing the instrument for that long. So what I've learned, it's more of a mindset. It's more of making the instrument more imaginative, being more creative with it. Because if you're used to classical music, you're used to just doing what's on the page, which is very valuable to be able to do that. It's a great skill. But to be able to do fiddle, you have to kind of open up and actually believe in yourself that you can actually create music without music, without sheet music. So try just those two measures, and just, what's going to happen is, especially at first, you're actually going to fail more than you succeed. But it feels really good when you actually do it properly. Or actually, that's a really bad word I just used, properly. When you do it the way, actually, to a way that you like it. Properly is a bad word because it assumes that there's a perfect way, and there really isn't. There's a lot of different ways to do something. So it's more just that I would say 9 out of 10 times you're not going to be happy with it, but that one time that you do it good, you're going to be proud. So maybe even record yourself and, play back the one that you liked, and I think that way you could build some confidence. And most likely when you're first starting doing this, you're not going to want to do it in front of people, so it's totally fine to do it in your own comfort of your own home without anybody around. Darlene asks, can you show me how to do a drone again? Sure, absolutely. So yeah, basically a drone, the key is that the fourth finger is not, well, I shouldn't say fourth because it can actually be different fingers, but in the case of a fourth finger drone, you want to make sure that the 4 is not touching the open string, which really makes it to where you have to have really good technique. Make sure that your hand is high enough. Otherwise, the 4 is going to hit the open string. So as I'm playing the D4, actually one way you can test it is pluck the A string, and you should get that sound. If you get this sound, that means the finger's touching the A string. So if I get that sound, it's going to sound like this. Really bad. But now if I do it properly, like that. Does that answer your question somewhat? Hopefully. All right, any other questions? All right, so maybe we have one here. Bethany asks, with the style of the song, are we supposed to accent the first and the third beats? Yep, you definitely can do that. With a real Irish reel, the second and the fourth are good. Yeah, accenting definitely adds a lot. Good point, Bethany. Being that we're in the beginner class, I didn't mention everything, but that definitely is something you can add to Irish music to make it sound better, putting in accents. So just to clarify what I just did, I accented. What's tough about this song is you actually have to accent this note in the middle of the note. Makes it a little harder. But it's basically beats 2 and 4 of every measure is what I'm focusing on accenting here. So, yeah, good question. Okay, so, yeah, I've been working really hard on a new concept and hoping you guys subscribe to it. It's basically an email by daily lesson. So I'm organizing them based by ability level. So not ever in my history since I've done Violin Tutor Pro have I organized emails based on ability level. I've always done just general emails. But now I actually have it to where you can actually subscribe to like just starting emails or all the way up to professional level emails. So it's really easy to sign up if you just go to my site. I have a pop-up now that you will see once you visit the site. So if you visit violintutorpro.com, you'll be able to fill out a form that will subscribe you to the lessons. And yeah, it's just basically getting free instruction, free tips from me on a bi-daily basis every other day. And yeah, that definitely will hopefully keep you guys accountable and give you guys some good tips on how to improve. All right, so hopefully for those of you guys that weren't able to come to the live class, you join us next week Monday at 8:30, and next week Monday at 9 for the beginner fiddle class, and we also do an intermediate fiddle class at 9:30 Eastern. So you can sign up right on the site. It's right at the webinars tab. You can sign up. It says the See Schedule and Enroll. You can click on that and scroll down to find the class that you want to sign up for. All right, thanks so much for joining us, guys, and I'm going to take some more questions here in a moment from anybody else that has them. Otherwise, for those of you guys listening on audio, have a great night and talk to you soon.